know many say this word is overused, but it might be close to true in this case. We're literally about to blink and it will be the second quarter of 2025. So, the end of a quarter gives us a chance, the first chance in the year to really look back at a few months, see what's happening, reflect, plan for the 3 quarters that lie ahead. So, in light of that, we put together an article recently looking at 10 key numbers to think about when focusing on engagement and retention in 2025. So, to kick things off, the first number, 28. When we looked at our assessments and our ongoing validation, whether it's hiring or promotion, we found that candidates or employees being considered for new roles who scored in the recommended range on assessments were 28 times more likely to effectively and successfully engage stakeholders. So, what does that mean? Well, it doesn't just mean customers or guests. It means that they're engaging every stakeholder that matters to the organization. So that could be community partners, team, of course, employees, their peer group, that's absolutely critical, leaders. They're working up the hierarchy with their peers, building strong teams, building strong cultures. And we believe that that's the focus that we put on competencies, understanding what key clusters of behaviors, values are most important, are going to drive success and lead to that person flourishing and thriving, as well as executing and driving key results. So, 28 times more likely to engage stakeholders because they have the capacity and the potential to build and grow within your teams. The next number is 60% to be exact. 60% of leaders, whether they're leading in the C suite or people development culture, are focused on leadership development this year. It is a key priority. And we're seeing that with work that we're doing. So, some of the things that we're focused on is supporting people when they're first promoted into those early supervisory roles, whether it's a production supervisor, a shift leader, a first time manager, and understanding where the gaps are, how they might fall through the cracks, and preventing that from happening to start so that they are equipped for that critical first new role. We're also really working hard, and there's a key focus with leadership development on giving them the skills for execution as well as building strong relationships. How do they strengthen those relationships? What are some of the key, again, gaps that they might be missing? And that could vary on an organization to organization basis, whether it's how you hold people accountable, how you approach a week, a month, having an agenda, leading an effective meeting, different challenges that they might have, and then supporting them. And then, in addition, we're also building systems to both provide ongoing coaching and development over time, coupled with assessment feedback, whether that's a personality values assessment or a nuts and bolts performance review or ongoing performance feedback that is collected from others. We're putting all that together and providing a constellation of touch points to support growth and development. So, that number, 60% of leaders are prioritizing leadership development within their teams this year. Now, we've talked about change a lot. We've talked about what you can do with your hiring process, what you can do with leadership development. So, the third number, a little bit of caution and pushback on that, is 45. 45% of employees are feeling burnt out on specifically change. So, they're not burnt out on their current workload, or they may be, that could be a separate problem, but this specifically speaks to change fatigue. So the idea and the takeaway from that is just being very intentional, having a strategy, understanding where your culture is. That's something that we can help with. Understanding where your culture is, where you're headed, where you need to be, and then making sure that everything is tied into your mission and closing those gaps. And that there's a minimum of, the flavor of the month or new initiatives flying in, something that you're not sure is going to stick or seems great at the moment, but might not be tied to a core key strategic challenge that you're facing. The last number, we talked about change fatigue and burnout, which broadly is a challenge that people are facing. So, how do we hire people or how do we support people in order to manage change, to thrive with change, to embrace your vision? Well, that leads to our last number that I'm going to share 10 times, the number 10. Candidates, whether we're looking at employees or we're looking at leaders, candidates who score in a recommended or strong match range on a core Vertus assessment, they're 10 times more likely to sustain that positive mindset and that resilience despite obstacles. We see again and again with working on employee development, leadership development, culture, that a key challenge is having a team that shows that positivity. I mean, we've all experienced it. We're going through something hard, and having people that are going to have that positivity, that resilience, that how can I help? Let's get through this together. We can do this. That mindset is so critical. And so, having an assessment on the front end when you hire, when you promote, that'll highlight maybe some of the gaps, some of the strengths or potential that a person has to weather the tough stuff is absolutely critical. And then also, an assessment can help you understand, how do I support my team, this specific person that's going to be critical part of my success? How do I support them when we're having a tough time? What are their strengths when the going gets tough? What can I count on them? What are their work styles, for better for worse, that they're going to uh, lead with or go to first when they're in a challenge? So in that way, I hope these four, we've covered 4 out of the 10. You can click to read the full article for the full 10. Gives you a highlight of some things to think about as you start to reflect and think about the 3 months already that we're into 2025 and where you might be headed, and any pivots or changes that you might want to make strategically heading into the next month of the year.